Today, we're unpacking a conflict that's sending shockwaves across the globe. We're going to look at the escalating tensions with Iran and figure out why it's created such a high-stakes dilemma for a major power like India.
So, let's get right into it. Believe it or not, this all kicked off with just one single military action. But that one event, it's triggered this massive cascade of consequences for pretty much the entire world.
All right, let's start at the very beginning. We're talking about a region that is, for all intents and purposes, on fire.
Okay, the timeline here is absolutely crucial to understanding what's going on. Picture this. On February 25th, 2026, India's Prime Minister is visiting Israel. Then, just 48 hours later, bam, the United States attacks Iran. I mean, the speed of these events is just staggering. And to make matters even worse, the whole conflict is shrouded in this cloud of disinformation, so it's incredibly difficult to get a handle on the true scale of what's really happening on the ground.
You know, this all leads to the biggest question of all, right? Why now? What's really going on here? Let's dig into the motives behind this war.
So what is really driving this thing? Is it what they're telling us publicly, or are there some deeper, more strategic calculations happening behind the scenes?
And this is where it gets interesting, because we're hearing two very different stories. The official line from Israel, it's all about neutralizing an existential threat, Iran's nuclear program. But then you have strategic analysts looking at this, and they're suggesting a totally different motive. They think this is really about achieving unchallenged supremacy in the Middle East by basically creating a power vacuum in Iran.
And then you've got former diplomat Vivek Kachu, who throws out an even more provocative idea. He thinks there's something much bigger at play here. He says, and I'm quoting, "I see the American desire to bring about a return to colonialism." Whoa. So this completely reframes the conflict, right? It's not just some regional dispute anymore, it's part of a massive ideological project.
Strategic thinker Brahma Chellaney actually builds on this idea. He points to what he calls the Trump doctrine in action. And we're not just talking about policy here. This is a whole governing philosophy built on disruption. It's about actively turning the international order on its head, weaponizing things like trade and sanctions, using military force more and more frequently, and, this is the really key part, normalizing actions that not too long ago would have been completely unthinkable.
Okay, so you might be thinking, how does all this high-level geopolitics actually affect nations on the ground? Well, let's take a look at a major global power that's caught right in the crossfire, India.
I mean, why should a country that's thousands of miles away be so deeply concerned about this? Well, as you're about to see, the stakes are absolutely immense.
Here's the thing about India's economy. It has a massive vulnerability. It imports a staggering 80% of its crude oil. And guess where a huge chunk of that oil travels through? Yep, the Strait of Hormuz, which is right in the heart of this conflict zone. It's a classic economic Achilles heel.
And trust me, the pain points go way beyond just fuel prices. We're talking about serious threats to essential supply chains for oil, gas, and even fertilizer, which of course directly impacts food security. Then there's this multi-million-dollar strategic investment in Iran's Chabahar port that's now totally at risk. That severs a crucial economic lifeline to Central Asia. And on top of all that, you can't forget the human element. There are more than 9 million Indians living and working in the Gulf region.
Okay, now this is where the dilemma gets really sharp. See, India has signed these foundational military agreements with the US. The big ones are called LAMOA, that allows them to use each other's military facilities for things like refueling, and COMCASA, which lets them share sensitive encrypted communications. The thing is, these were all designed for peacetime cooperation.
And that leads to the million-dollar question, doesn't it? Will these agreements, signed in a totally different context, end up unintentionally dragging India into an active war? I mean, does cooperating in peacetime automatically make you an ally in a hot conflict?
All right, for this last part, let's zoom way out. Because really, this is about so much more than just one country or one region. What we're witnessing could be the fracturing of the entire world order.
Look, this conflict isn't just another regional dispute. You should think of it more like a stress test for the entire global system, the one that's been more or less in place since the end of World War II. The very rules of the game are being challenged right now.
And this quote from Brahma Chellaney, it's just chilling. He's warning of a world where, and I'm quoting him here, abducting a sitting president or decapitating the leadership of a country are all being normalized in international relations. I mean, what he's describing is a complete breakdown of the most basic, foundational rules of how countries are supposed to interact.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. Analysts are pointing to a clear escalating pattern. Think of it like steps. Step 1,
you abduct a sitting president, like we saw in Venezuela. Step 2, you blockade an entire nation into a humanitarian crisis, like with Cuba. And now, step 3, you try to decapitate the leadership of a sovereign state, like Iran. It's like a ladder, and each rung is a more serious act of aggression.
So, that leaves us with a pretty unsettling final thought, doesn't it? This whole conflict, it isn't just about winners and losers. It's about the entire rulebook of international relations being torn up right in front of us. And that poses the most important question of all. When the old rules are broken, what on earth comes next?